I'm in control of my emotions.
Oh my God, I was given such a heartfelt, warm welcome to everybody. And man, off to a great start yet once again. Let's rewind back to the beginning. Um, I even had a problem with starting the live stream. I clicked the go live button and then I didn't click the confirmation. So then I started playing my intro music, waiting for like kind of like, a couple minutes intro music, like people like kind of come in. And then I was like, okay, time to rock and roll. And then I realized that it didn't actually go live. So I had to rewind and do that all over again. Then I popped myself up on the stage finally, and then I muted, and wow, just awesome start. Okay, I'm gonna rewind from the beginning. Prag, thank you so much for doing what you do. Need to put you onto a payroll or something because you just jump from stream to stream to stream and just doing the good work. You're helping us atheists pull people out of their comforting lies and comforting delusions and into the real world. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that. Pandora Pinata, welcome. Really nice to see you. Everyone here should thank Pandora for getting me off my butt and onto the stream tonight because he caught me over in the lines live stream. And yeah, he was like, "Hey, Eric, are you streaming tonight?" And I was like, "Well, I've got to now. I've been called out." So Pandora, thank you so much. It can be really easy to just kind of sit back here. I'm like way up here in Washington. It can be really easy to say, well, no one's going to miss me tonight, or I'm not going to bother tonight because no one's going to care. But when I see random people say, hey, we're missing you, or hey, we want you to stream, I appreciate that. So anyway, that's part of the reason why I'm completely unkept. I'm in my pajamas. I haven't combed my hair just because Pandora's like, oh, come stream. I'm like, well, I've got to now. And oh, well, appearances be damned. So here I am. Tsunami, good to see you. Awesome as always. Let's see here. Maya's here. Hi, Maya. We need to connect up and get another episode of Bad Science Sundays going. I super duper enjoyed our last one, and I want to do another one. So yeah, I will reach out to you on Twitter or on Discord. But yeah, we look forward to that. Sapir Odd, welcome as usual. Glad to have you here. We got BS Lewis. Welcome, BS. Good to have you. I killed Earl. Great to have you here, Earl. I was just over on Earl and Justin's new channel, Ride the Wavelength, just less than a week ago. We had a nice, hour and a half, just kind of fun. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Earl wasn't there. It was Justin and Mark. They were the hosts of that show, and I had a really good time there. So yeah. So go check them out. It's at Ride the Wavelength. So yeah, great to have you here. Thanks a lot. See here, Casey Hendricks. Good to have you here. Jimmy Thompson. It's been a minute. Yeah, like I don't know if you caught the one a couple weeks ago. I had one about 2 weeks ago, and then before that, it was probably a 2-ish month wait. My mom had died in the early February, So that kind of threw a wrench in life in general, as it does. But yeah, so I've been trying to get back onto this regularly. But just life gets up and in your face, and it's all that. Yeah, thank you, BS Lewis. I think this was a comment that made me realize that I was indeed muted. See here, what else we got going up here? Jimmy Thompson. Yeah, we said hi to you already. Okay, there's all the notifications about me being muted. Yep, it would be my third do-over. So good stuff. Good stuff. All right, and I think we got everybody else. Oh, hey, Philly. Welcome, Philly. Good to have you here. Yeah, I am the king of procrastinators. I work best. I actually work best, I think, when I'm under some pressure. I've noticed that with my work. I'm a software developer. If I don't have any deadlines, I have very little motivation to get anything done because no one's asking me for anything, and my butt's not in line for anything. But if I do have a deadline or two over my head, like, oh, we need to have this product ready by this date, or else these bad things will happen, that will get me up and working. And so I'm usually under a good, healthy amount of deadlines and pressure to get things done. So that really helps me out. Eddie Dean, great to have you here. It's always nice to see you. And Josh Capshaw, good evening all. Yes, good evening to you too. I was mentioning before that I not really prepared for this stream. Like, this is part 2 of the Vox podcast one we did a couple weeks ago. So I am kind of prepared in that I've already listened through it and I've studied it and I got my notes here. But we're just going to be it's going to be just a light evening going through the rest of this. I think there's maybe another 5 minutes of that podcast, which at the rate I talk and break things down, it'll probably be a good 45 minutes of chat. And then I think what I'll do is, so I'm now a main host over on the line. I just had my first main host episode on Sunday. I was with Aaron Raw, and anyway, before that, I had a host co-hosting with Matt Dillahunty, and he and I were talking about atheist memes for a few minutes, and he actually mentioned it tonight again on this live stream. But anyway, memes have been around for 20-ish years. Back when I first deconverted 15 years ago, I discovered the most wretched hive of scum and villainy on the internet called 4chan. And from there, I created I frequented the random board quite a lot. If you've never heard of 4chan, I don't recommend going there, especially these days. 4chan has virtually no rules. The only rules in 4chan is basically nothing illegal. So basically, like no child CP or other things that basically the FBI will get involved if you possess. But pretty much everything else on that forum is allowed. You post anonymously, so there's no real way to track a post back to a user. Like I said, it's a wretched hive of scum and villainy. It's very different now than it was 15 years ago, and even 15 years ago wasn't all that great. But from my few years of surfing through 4chan as I was deconverting, I picked up a lot of atheist memes off of that board. So yeah, I have like a atheist memes, but also like just lots of other like just little pictures and multimedia crap that I picked up. Like I got 10,000 items in a folder. So anyway, long story short, Matt and I were talking about memes a few weeks ago on the line. Then he mentioned again tonight, and he said he's going to be doing an episode on memes. And I was like, you know what? That's what I was thinking too. So I was maybe I'll bring up some old atheist memes, like relics from like 15 years ago, and we can maybe talk about them and figure out, okay, is this a good meme? Is it bad? Is it funny? Is it not? Is it promoting a stereotype, or is there like a kernel of truth behind it? So we can take a look at that and see what we can do there. So that we'll fill out the show with the rest of that. And then, yeah, if anybody wants to call in, preferably theist, but if anybody else just wants to call in, just shoot the shit. Sure, you can go ahead and do that. And yeah, it's just like Fight Club BS. But yeah, don't anybody go. In fact, I'm just going to go back and say, just don't anybody go to 4chan. It's a really, really bad place. Anyway, so I'm going to pop the banner up there. I should have done all this beforehand. Where's my banner? There we go. And then I should probably log into the call-in studio, whatever it's called. So remember there we go. Stream epistemology, host show, and start show. And nobody should be able to hear that. Okay, then I got to connect as the host. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of new to this and I wasn't ready. Connect to show. Okay, great. So the phone number should now be active. That's the host call-in. It's the same number, right? Or my number doesn't change at all, right? Host call-in number, blah, 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 blah. Then, yeah, I think that's fine. We'll see. If somebody can't call in, just use StreamYard. It's probably better anyway. 4chan makes Reddit look wholesome. Ooh, I don't know. I might have to disagree with you there, Earl. I think it's the other way around. Reddit's a shithole. 4chan is like the basement of the shithole. Yeah, but it's just a matter of opinion. Hey, Colicia, good to see you. Great to see you. I guess I'm taking it that the line stream just ended, so hopefully we'll pick up some folks from off of that. Yeah, 4chan is the bottom of the cesspool. I don't know, Kala, if you had listened to what I said earlier, but yeah, when I first deconverted 15 years ago, I think 4chan was one of the first websites I kind of discovered in my exploratory phase. So I picked up a lot of relics from 4chan, old memes, old images and such, and we might just share a little bit tonight. So we'll see. Yeah, 4chan is absolutely vile, and that's why I don't recommend anybody go there ever. Philly 300 or 3000. Yeah, I'm in Seattle. I live outside of Seattle, basically. And we've got Monkey at a typewriter. Welcome. Good to have you here. Hey, yeah, we got a few people rolling in. Looks like, yeah, got people coming in from the line. TLPC, good to see you. Always good to see you. Cool. All right. So yeah, let's get rolling tonight. So for those of you who were here a couple weeks ago, we were going over a Vox live stream or a Vox podcast on the politics of IVF because the Alabama Supreme Court just recently released basically a ruling that puts IVF in the state in basically kills the entire medical field of IVF medical healthcare there, because no matter what stage of development that a zygote or fetus is in, it's considered a person and has personhood and has rights. So this podcast was actually, let me go and share the podcast. This podcast was on Vox, and on their podcast show Today Explained, the politics of IVF. You can go to the website. I think I have it down in the description below, and you listen to the whole thing on your own a little later on. But anyway, so the host of the podcast, his name is Sean Rameswaram, and I like him a lot. He's a good host. He has some pretty good questions, which we're going to be getting into tonight. But he's interviewing a guy named Andrew Walker, who is an associate professor of Christian ethics and public theology at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. He has a list of other titles and accolades. And anyway, he proceeds in this interview to give just completely, I consider a mess of an argument for why zygotes, like single cells up to small clusters of hundreds of cells, like literally microscopic, you cannot see this with the naked eye, why this is a person. And he uses very, very loose terminology, very broad definitions. He's very sloppy with his language, in my opinion. And anyway, that's what we went through on the last episode. And the other half of this interview is essentially Sean starting to more directly engage with him in questions. He gave Andrew the opportunity to give his case, and then Sean's going to have some questions in response, and also going to talk a little bit about the fact that Mike Pence and his wife use IVF to basically procreate. So anyway, this is a really good example. Sean here is a really good example. I'm sorry, Andrew here is a really good example of how religion rots your thinking when it comes to this issue, basically, how religion rots your thinking in that, well, the Bible says that God knew me in the womb, so that means this zygote's a person. That means God knew me as a zygote. And what he fails to realize is there was no you as a zygote. There wasn't even you as an embryo. You formed at some point after that. And uh, these people have a hard time divorcing the idea of the biological material and you as a person. And I went into that a little bit last week with a couple of examples, with a couple thought experiments. One was, basically like, uh, let's say a mad scientist. Let's say a mad scientist took Andrew's daughter, and in the mad scientist lab, the mad scientist removed Andrew's daughter's brain and put it into a jar, put it on life support, hooked up to a computer. You can interact with it, and he brings Andrew into the lab. So in front of Andrew is his daughter's brain in a jar, hooked up to a computer, and he can interact with his daughter's brain. And on the right-hand side is the brainless body of his daughter. Which one of those does Andrew consider to be his daughter? Is it the brain or is it the body? And if he wants to say, oh, well, both are my daughter, then did I somehow, I'm sorry, not me, but the mad scientist, did the mad scientist somehow turn his one daughter into two daughters? If so, there's all kinds of questions there, especially around the theology of it, with the soul, the mind, and the spirit, and what happened there. But I think a reasonable person would say, no, that brain in the jar is my daughter. The body without the brain in it is just a shell. It looks like my daughter because that's how I've that's how I visually and audibly and tactilely interacted with her. But honestly, the brain is where my daughter lives. Like the brain is where the person that my daughter is at. And if he were to say that, both were my daughter, then I can have the scientist pull out a gun and say, well, I'm going to shoot one of them. You need to pick. Which do you pick? And I think a thinking person would say, well, if I'm in that situation, I want you to shoot the brainless body, keep the brain in the jar alive so I can keep my daughter. So this all goes back to, okay, the zygote. There's no brain in a zygote. A zygote is one to a handful of cells. Even many early embryos or all early embryos up to a certain point has no brain, has no nervous system. There is no mind in there, no brain and no mind. So basically, up to that point, how can you say that there's a person inside when there is no mind? The same way that, the mad scientist can forcefully illustrate the point with the brain body separation. The person's no longer in that body. Same deal with, if I were to cut off my arm or if I were to shed skin cells by scratching my arm, the shed cells are human. They have human DNA. They're technically alive. When you scratch yourself and those skin cells come off, those are alive, albeit briefly, but they're alive. These are all the arguments that people that these pro-lifers are using to argue against IVF and also downstream abortion. But it doesn't hold up when you really think about it, because we don't consider my severed arm a person. We don't consider those skin cells a person, even though they have human DNA, even though they are alive, and even though they came from me. We don't consider those to be people. And with this Alabama abortion ruling and also Andrew's arguments, under their arguments, these are living, breathing people, or not living, breathing people. They're living people. They deserve personhood. So anyway, pardon me. So that was a complete recap of last time. And so we're going to go into a little bit now the interactions between Sean and Andrew, and we'll just kind of stop and maybe discuss things a little bit and see how things fare. So let's take a look. I think I have it around the right spot. I'm going to move this over here so I can see my notes. All right. And let me know if you can't hear this.
I have so many questions I want to ask you. I don't know which one to ask first, but let's just go with, I think, one that's probably on the minds of a lot of our listeners right now, hearing you lay out the theological argument for why an embryo is a child. Why do you believe well, first of all, no, I don't want to assume. Do you believe that your theological argument should be applied to state laws, to federal laws, to people who do not share your theological values?
So I think this is a great question on Sean's behalf. Basically, you've laid out your argument. Why should anybody else be legally bound to follow these theocratic notions of what a person is? I think it's a great question because it's not asking for justification for the argument. It's simply saying, why should anybody listen to the argument? Even if the argument is right, even if you could somehow establish that, yes, a God exists, yes, from a theocratic, theological point of view, this embryo, this zygote is a person, why should anybody follow this? So we'll see what Andrew says.
In a liberal democracy, everyone has to argue their position, and everyone is entitled to argue their position. The positions that I can arrive at about the dignity of the unborn child or the dignity of the frozen child, those are moral principles that are true, regardless of whether that they're arrived at theologically or philosophically.
So that's about half of his response. So let's go back and listen to exactly what he just said there. And I have a transcript right here. If you want to follow the transcript at all, by the way, you can go to this website that I have up in front of me. And I think I have it down in the links. Yes, I have the transcript actually down in the links. So you can go down, click on the transcript and open it up. It'll open up in Google Docs. And you can actually follow along word for word if you want. So Andrew says here that in a liberal democracy, everyone has to argue their position and everyone is entitled to argue their position. I completely agree with that statement. We live in a country where you can express yourself, you have a freedom of thought, freedom of expression. And if you have a position that you want to argue it. Sure, I think it's great. I think it's one of the core things at the line is we ask people, call in and tell us what you believe and why you believe it. And they can argue for it all they want. But anyway, here's where it gets off the rails, though, because the question was, why do you believe that the theological argument should be applied to state laws? And he goes on to say that the position I arrive at about the dignity of the unborn child or the dignity of the frozen child. So again, I'll finish the sentence first. Those are moral principles that are true, regardless of whether they're arrived at theologically or philosophically. So again, he's using very sloppy language. The dignity of the unborn child, the dignity of the frozen child. I expressed last week that I don't consider a single cell, no matter if it's human, no matter if it's a stem cell that has the potential to eventually become a human, that is not a child, not yet. You can stop the process to keep it from becoming a child. And that happens all the time. In fact, Seth Andrews earlier tonight said that, and I believe this is a true fact. 1/3 of all fertilized zygotes are discarded by the body. The female body discards 1/3 of all fertilized zygotes. It's just a natural process. In fact, many females are pregnant and they don't even realize it, and they simply pass it and they never know because the body just simply doesn't take it 1/3 of the time. But that's the thing, though. That's not a child. It's a fertilized egg. It's a zygote. There's no mind. There's no brain. There's no nervous system. There's no personality. There's nothing in there. And arguing, I think he'll argue here in a little bit that he's going to start arguing for the future hopes and dreams for the child, the future wants and desires of this child. And why can't we just go back further than that and say, oh, well, every time you don't have sex, you're denying that child, the sperm and egg coming together, you're denying that child its hopes and dreams and its future. It's like I said, this is what religion does to your mind. You're sitting there calling a single cell a person. Like I said, imagine calling my skin cells a person. Imagine calling my severed arm a person. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, he goes on to say that these are moral principles that are true, regardless of whether they're arrived at theologically or philosophically, namely the dignity of the unborn or frozen child. So obviously we disagree with that there I disagree with that there because he hasn't established why they're true. He just simply says they're true because they're true. He's going off of emotion. He's going off of divine dictate, obviously, because he's relying on the Bible for some of these arguments. He hasn't actually made an actual sound and valid argument. He actually presented a case. In fact, I presented a much stronger case against his position than he has for his position. So just reiterating that it's true does not mean it's true. And also, more importantly, to answer Sean's question, does not explain why it should be applied to law. So let's keep on going to see what else he has to say about that. This is the second half of his answer.
I'm seeking to be more expansive and protective and kind of the reach of the law to recognize and protect human beings.
Okay, so I'm pausing again. So he said it's true because it's true. And now he's going towards, I am doing something righteous. I am protecting. I'm being more expansive and protective in kind of the reach of the law to recognize and protect human beings, which I talked more about that last week. What is a human? What is a being? What is a human being? Can human be used in two different senses? Yeah. Can being be used in two different senses? Yeah. And I was referring to those last week or a couple weeks ago as lower H human, capital H human, lowercase b being, uppercase B being, because my shed skin cells, those are human. There's human DNA in there, but that's not a human. I'm a human. The totality of me is a human. Most importantly, the totality of me, which includes a functional brain, that's a human. Same thing with a being. In the broadest sense, lowercase b, a being can be anything that exists. This beer can is a being. My shed skin cells are a being. But is it an uppercase being? Like when you say a human being, what are you referring to? Are you referring to the shed skin cells, or are you referring to the person as a whole? I am a being in that I exist and I can think and I can interact with things. And when people think of Eric, they're thinking of the totality of me, not the individual parts of me. So anyway, he's going off here now. And he's saying basically like he's on a righteous quest to protect the dignity, to protect human beings. And like I said, if he's protecting human beings, he needs to protect his clipped nail clippings and the shit he leaves in the toilet, because that all contains human DNA. All those things exist. And going back to my thought experiment, he would have to say, my daughter is both the brain and the body. And he'd have to he would probably at that point have a dilemma over which one to shoot, because which one do you do? Do you shoot the brainless body or do you shoot the brain? Like I said, I think if you were to give this a little bit more thought, he'd probably answer, I think, in my opinion, correctly, but not where he's at right now. So anyway, let's keep going. Actually, let's take a little break here. I'm going to take a swig of my beer, and I want to see who has showed up, because I know our audience is growing a little bit, so I'm very happy about this. Monkey Typewriter, saw you. Vic Lit, welcome. Oh my word, you're right. And you're talking to Monkey, obviously. That technically isn't dumber than ideas I've heard theists repeat just regarding that verse alone. So there's, I guess, some theological, biblical talk in there. Frozen child sounds so dark. Yeah, that's exactly what he's going for. He's going for that punch you in the feels type terminology, because he wants you to equate that zygote with that 6-year-old girl sitting over there next to her father. He wants to equate those, and he wants to say that both of those are the same. Reminds me of the other thought experiment we had a couple weeks ago about, if Andrew was in a hospital and the hospital was burning down and he's trying to escape, and he comes across a little girl on a stretcher on a hospital bed, and the building's burning down. He comes across a girl on a hospital bed, and next to her is a briefcase that says 1,000 frozen zygotes. Which one is he going to save? He can only save one in this thought experiment. Does he save the 6-year-old girl on the stretcher, or does he save the 1,000 zygotes? By his reasoning, if those frozen children have the same value and personhood as that 6-year-old girl on the stretcher there, then by his argumentation, he should save the zygotes, because he's saving 1,000 people instead of one. Even though those 1,000 people don't have brains, don't have minds, can't think, can't ask for help, won't feel the pain of the fire, never even experience existence. Those 1,000 people are more valuable total than the one girl there that will be literally begging him for help, literally screaming as the flames consume her, literally have a lost life and miss out on those experiences that she has just begun to experience and to enjoy. According to his argumentation, that would be the correct course of action if he were kind of utilitarian in thinking. Now, I would be interested to see him try to reason with this argumentation why he should save the girl instead of the zygotes. So yeah, Anyway, that was from last week as well. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, invoking frozen children, that type of imagery is very, it's emotionally dishonest. So it's emotional manipulation. Frozen child sounds like an atheist Ben and Jerry flavor. Oh man, oh yeah, that's a good idea. BS, you should use it in one of your videos. If you ever do a video on IVF, that's golden, because that's exactly your humor, obviously, because you said the joke. But yeah, you should try that. Earl absorbed her twin, and it was tasty. Yeah, kind of harkens back to the Dwight Schrute joke from The Office. Dwight Schrute was, I think, just dead straight looking to Jim and going, "When I was in the womb, I had a twin, which I resorbed before I was born. So now I have the strength of a grown man and a baby." Yeah. Okay. Vic Lid's dropping some factoids here. Total loss from fertilization to birth is approximately 40 to 60%. Wow. So not just the zygotes that don't take and attach to the uterine wall, all births, all pregnancies, 40 to 60%. Wow, we're batting about one half. That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if 1/3 is just zygotes, and that other 15% can be other, pregnancies further on. I think I'm not sure if my mom had a miscarriage. I know my wife's mother had a miscarriage. My wife might have not been the youngest had that not happened. Hey Stephanie, welcome. Good to see you here. Always good to see you. Okay, and I think we're caught up on everything. So I really did absorb my twin. I can't remember if she was tasty though. Well, if it was a forgettable meal, it probably didn't taste very good, but that's just logic. Okay, let's keep on going here. Let me get my place. Okay, here we go.
And I think one of the pushbacks I would have to individuals who want to treat the embryo as less than fully human or less deserving of rights is for them to need to justify why they would want to restrict the reach of the law to narrow who is then protected by the law. I think that's a very slippery slope.
All right. So this is his finish of his response. And as you can see, he did not answer the question. He did not justify why the law should enforce his particular theological viewpoint. In fact, I think he's saying a lot of nonsense here. He says, one of the pushbacks I would have to individuals who want to treat the embryos as less than fully human, which I've given all my argumentation why they are indeed less than fully human. Again, capital H, human. They're not people. They're human with human DNA. They're not fully realized. And anyway, all that. Or less deserving of rights is for them to need to justify why they would want to restrict the reach of the law to narrow who is then protected by the law. It's a really hard sentence to parse, but he's basically saying, well, by default, they're people. And he's probably referring to the Alabama Supreme Court ruling, which technically he's correct. The law says they're people. Doesn't make them actually people, but the law does say that they're people. And he's basically saying, well, I don't need to justify why you need to accept my theological argument through law. You need to explain why you shouldn't. He's basically just shifting the burden of proof, just putting it right back onto people. And that's not how the law works. Each law has to be argued for. Typically, constitutions work by assuming everybody has rights to everything, and then you restrict those rights and take those away. So what he's basically arguing for here is that he wants to frame it as, well, we're reducing the rights of these frozen people. Let's just simply say for a moment that he's right, and these are indeed frozen people, and they do indeed have these rights that we bestow upon them. He's actually arguing for the addition of rights to these people, because he's essentially granting these frozen people, so we got to break this into two things here. There's frozen people, and there's people in the womb. The frozen people have rights. Okay, fine. The law says they have rights. Fine. You want to consider them people? fine. That doesn't mean you can go out there and force those frozen people into living people to incubate them and get them to be born. That's not at all what he's saying here. But at best, these frozen people are now in perpetual limbo, because if nobody wants to come forward to incubate them, then they're forever stuck. They're forever frozen people, because they're just going to remain in that state forever. Whereas if the zygote or the embryo is actually in the womb, then he's now arguing that that zygote has more rights than the host. That frozen zygote has a right to the host's body, and the host does not have the right to reject that that resource strain, that zygote, whatever you want to refer to it as. Even if you want to call it by the technical terms of the law, that child. He's basically saying this child has more rights than the mother. And of course, they'll go turn around and say, oh, well, but they have the right to life, and they have the right to grow and to be healthy. And they always miss the point that you have those rights, but not at the expense of an unwilling participant. If I'm in a car accident and I lost a lot of blood, I don't have the right to your blood. I don't have the right to be hooked up to your body for my life support. Even if you do give me permission, and like, let's pick on somebody. We'll pick on Max. Max just got here. We'll pick on Max. Hey, Max. Let's say Max says, oh man, Eric's in a terrible car accident. I volunteer to be Eric's kidney. Hook him up. And so Max and I go in the hospital. They hook me up. And now Max's kidney's filtering my blood. Let's say next week, Max says, hey, you know what? I really have changed my mind here. I don't want to do this anymore. Do I then get to say, well, hold on now. You agreed to this. You agreed to allowing me to be hooked up to your kidney to filter my blood. If you disconnect me, I'll die. Do I have the right to legally prevent Max from unhooking me from his own body? I would hope we have the sense to say, well, no, that's unreasonable. Max can withdraw his consent to my use of his body at any time he wants, even if it kills me. So same thing with the embryo, the zygote, even a baby that's about to be born, which I would say at that point in birth, that's a human. There's a mind in there. It's very primitive, very developing. And we can talk into like late-term abortion some other day. But for the most part, he's trying to argue for the rights, the increased rights of a zygote, the increased rights of an embryo. And he's basically saying that, well, you got to tell me why I got to curb rights. Well, hey, buddy, you got to tell me why you're increasing these rights for these one people, for this one group of people above the rights of others. So, yeah. Finish him. And J Mike. Welcome, J Mike. Nice to have you here. It's good to see you here. Okay, let's keep on going here then. So this was the end of the first question. So he gave pretty much a non-answer, shifted the burden of proof, and made no real point here other than, well, you need to tell me why you get to curb the rights of others. And it's like, that's the thing. Like, we're not curbing the rights of others. That embryo, if you want to call it a person, that embryo has a right to life. That embryo has a right to live and develop and grow, but not at the expense of somebody else as a essentially host, essentially life support platform. Anyway, okay, let's keep on going.
You're saying the majority of Americans have to argue their position, but you're in the minority here. Why do you think most people in this country, from evangelical Christians to heretics and atheists, who believe that this is a good thing, that letting people who cannot naturally conceive a child use this methodology is a good thing that creates life? Why do you think those people should have to argue their position?
So Sean's doing something very astute here. He's basically pitting motivations of the Christian against each other. He's basically saying like, well, okay, so you want to protect these frozen, unborn people, but you also want people to reproduce. God says reproduce, become many, fill the earth. There's certain movements like the quiverful movement and such, where breed. It's basically the mandate from God. So you better breed. So anyway, Sean here is basically saying you're kind of got conflicting. Your positions here are conflicting with your goals, which that's fine. I mean, you can have conflicting motivations, I guess. But anyway, let's keep on going and see what Andrew has to say. And spoiler alert, we're about to get into talking about Pence and how he and his wife did IVF.
There is good motive behind those individuals who are wanting to utilize IVF. And as a pro-life kind of intellectual myself, it's interesting to find myself in disagreement with some in the pro-life community on this question. We value children. We want couples who want children to have children. We then employ this by any means necessary approach to bring children about. And I think that's a very dangerous and slippery argument ethically, because it kind of relies on an ethical system where the ends justifies the means.
Okay. So he's going on and saying basically like, well, that's what I want. I want people to have children. He says here, I want people who want to have children. We value children. But then he goes on and builds a straw man here, basically. We then employ this by any means necessary approach to bring children about. Any means necessary? No, I can think of far more extreme means or extreme methods to bring about children. Forced breeding, forced reproduction. We could think of cloning vats and cloning chambers and breeding farms. Like this, any means necessary? No, we haven't gone anywhere near that. We're at a point here where we have the technology. I don't like this layout here. We have the technology, blah, blah, blah. Come on. There we go. Okay, that's what I wanted. We have the technology to go much, much further. We're at a point where we're basically what happens is you go, and I'm not an expert at all on this, so if I get this messed up, please someone call me out. But two people want to have a baby. They try on their own and they realize, well, something's wrong because something's not working. So they go to a clinic, they talk to a doctor, and the doctor says, okay, well, what we can do is we can do IVF. We will harvest the male's sperm. We will then fertilize several eggs drawn from the female. And then we will examine all of them and give you the one that has the best opportunity for survival, the ones that don't have a genetic illness or some type of defect, give you the best shot possible. And then we'll implant that into the female and you can go on and have a pregnancy and a birth. Andrew's objection here is, what about those other fertilized zygotes? What do we do with them? Because they're all frozen at one point. They're frozen at one point and stored. And according to him, those are fully realized people. They have rights, they have dignity, they have all that. They somehow deserve your respect. Anyway, he's going on to say like, well, this is the problem. We haven't by any means necessary. We are creating 10 lives and then eliminating 9 of them just to give one a chance. Again, like I said, that's a straw man. That's as far as I know, that's the most that's happening in those things. And we can think of far, far worse ways to force and promote the population of our species. Anyway, let's keep on going and see what else he has to say about it.
And in my worldview, once you begin to introduce the idea of conception occurring outside the marital embodied love of a husband and wife, you've transgressed a very sacred boundary.
Okay, so now we're going into some juicy stuff about why couples are couples. And he's going to look at it through the lens of his Bible. You know, God created man and woman, commanded them to reproduce through marriage and all that. But it's interesting here because according to his worldview, his religious worldview, and I quote, once you begin to introduce the idea of conception occurring outside the marital embodied love of a husband and wife, you've transgressed a very sacred boundary. I think somebody needs to teach this guy about Abraham, right? Because it was Abraham and Sarah who couldn't conceive. So then Sarah gave Abraham her maidservant, I think it was Hagar. And then Abraham conceived through the maidservant, right? Is that correct? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. How many children were produced under King David and his concubines, King Solomon and his concubines? Why? My dog just opened the door on his own. That's kind of weird. So have we, by his words, transgressed a very sacred boundary? Because God didn't command Hagar to reproduce with Abraham. God made a promise to Abraham that his seed would become many and become a whole grand nation. But as far as I know, God didn't command Abraham to go shag Hagar and make a baby. So did they transgress a very sacred boundary? What about King David, King Solomon, anyone else in the Bible who had a child out of wedlock or a child with a concubine or a mistress? Any of those people? I wonder what he had to say about that. All right, keep going.
The other principle,
really quick. Cool. Thank you, Monkey. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think that was right. It was Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar. That's how they got the idea for The Handmaid's Tale. Oh yeah, I've been hearing so much about that. I really should watch that movie. I hear it's very, very topical for kind of what's been going on with the war against bodily autonomy and women's rights and such. So I need to look into that. Nitty, how you doing? See, I knew it. Once I mentioned shagging on the live stream, I knew Nitty would just appear and boom, there he is. It's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times. But hey, Nitty, good to see you. All right, let's keep going. I'll do that, Stephanie. I'll do that and then probably watch the movie after that.
Here is after IVF procedures have occurred, what then do you do with these excess embryos?
Why didn't you call them excess people? They're embryos, yeah. Why'd you call them people? You really need to, Andrew, you gotta gut punch over and over again. Hammer that emotional aspect. They are frozen people. What do? You're gonna discard them.
I think those excess embryos are human beings. And so to keep our neighbors, to keep human beings permanently suspended in a state of cryopreservation is a way of keeping people against their will. It's denied.
Okay, so here's where it's really, really good. You're keeping people against their will. What fucking will? Like this guy, he doesn't understand that you need a mind to have a will. You need a brain to have a mind. To have a brain, you need to be more developed than a zygote. There is no will here. He is imposing his idea of what this person might be onto what it is currently now. And I mentioned this last week that, which we talked a little bit tonight, how 40, 50, 60% of pregnancies self-terminate. They just simply fail. Last time we were here, we talked about, I forgot the exact name of the condition, but essentially babies that fully develop in the womb and they're missing a huge portion of their brain. Babies born without a nervous system, babies born without critical components to make them people. They essentially, their brain is essentially just a life support system functioning at bare minimum to keep the body alive. These are not people. These are not minds. You can't interact with them. There's nothing in there. But he wants to assume that every single embryo is going to become a fully realized person, even though statistically we know that doesn't happen. And that because that is a person, then it needs to have these rights. In fact, it has to have rights over actual fully realized people, actually real people with real adults, real mind, real brains, all that. So he's like I said, he's going at this from this biblical emotional point of view that does not hold water once you really apply any pressure to it.
Denying them their right to live. We have these frozen embryos. They can be selectively reduced, which means destroyed. They can be used for medical research, or multiple embryos can be implanted, and then the most promising ones are allowed to move forward, and then the others are discarded and destroyed.
Your neighbor.
So again, he doesn't see the nuance and the problems with what he's saying, because if we were to go by his terminology, like I said, my skin cells, my lopped off arm, a baby born without a brain, those are all people. They all deserve rights. They all deserve to have their future desires respected, their wills not be imposed upon.
Is someone who wants this treatment. I want to use a real world example here for a moment. Vice President Mike Pence, famously a serious Christian man.
This is my favorite tactic. You pit two Christians against each other because they have opposing viewpoints. It's fun to watch.
He has been very open about his religious beliefs throughout his political career. He and his wife are vehemently anti-abortion, but he has spoken publicly about their fertility struggles and how they used IVF to have children.
So that's they're about to go into a clip here, but that's actually a really good point. Is the hypocrisy there? What's the difference between IVF and an early term abortion? In fact, IVF is worse because you're destroying 5, 10, 15 embryos. So really, Mike Pence, by going with the IVF route, he might have just basically committed 10, 15 abortions. I wonder what his God thinks about that.
I fully support fertility treatments, and I think they deserve the protection of the law. They gave us great comfort in those long and challenging years that we struggled with infertility in our marriage.
If he had come
So I would imagine, I don't know, if we were to point out this inconsistency with Mike Pence, I wonder what his reasoning would be. I wonder if his reasoning, because I highly doubt he's ignorant of what IVF is fully all about. Because I mean, him and his wife went to the doctor. The doctor explained these things to you, right? The doctor would probably explain, okay, this is what we're going to do: create these embryos, pick the most viable one, implant that, off you go. Yeah, I don't know what his reason would be. Maybe his reason would be, well, abortion is the termination of life. There's no life at all coming out of that situation. Whereas in my case, we are producing a life, and you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, right? So maybe the ends justify the means here, because you're getting at least one life out of this, one life out of the cost of 10 or 15. This would also conflict with Andrew's earlier comments about, well, we're going along the lines of any means necessary. We're going to these extremes to reproduce. So, I mean, yeah, Mike Pence is falling right into that straw man of his. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to ask Mike Pence this and see what he says about it. I saw somebody earlier call me out. I gotta address it. Yeah, JR, I know. Yeah, I was really, I need your thoughts on your April Fool's video. Why didn't you make another one, King? Yeah, I was thinking about it, and then April Fool's just crawled up on me. I'm very, very, very lazy. You see, I'm sorry to break this to you. I'm very lazy. I'm a procrastinator. I get discouraged easily, and yeah, I was thinking about the April Fool's video though, and I was like, it'd be kind of silly because I mean, literally, I think my April Fool's video of 2023 was my last video on my channel, like pre-made. So yeah, thanks for calling me out, buddy, and I appreciate it. It's I should have made one. I do have another video in the works that I am writing a script on, but it's I don't know, just it's been kind of just hard to get up and going again. I've been doing live streams. I've been doing stuff over on the line and stuff on channels like Ride the Wavelength and Skeptic Haven, and I'm also now a main host on the line. So I've been focused on that for the most part, but I do have, and I'm actually gonna be on Apologia here really soon. We just did our recording just a week ago, and I'm going to have a episode of Apologia here very soon. But yeah, you're right to call me out there. I will make it up to you. Let's put it that way, at some future date. Yeah. But thank you. What else we got going here? Yeah, and I don't, JR, I think you got a good point there. I think that the argument being presented here, it really is a simple, those embryos have souls and they shouldn't be destroyed. I don't think there's too much to dissect here. Yeah, I think you're right. He's not invoking souls at all. Like, it's kind of weird. He wants to call them humans. He wants to call them beings. He wants to call them people and persons, and they have agency and wills and rights that cannot be violated. He has not once invoked souls, which I wonder if he's doing that on purpose, because once you start invoking souls, now you can start asking, okay, can you demonstrate to us that you have a soul? Like it's much more harder to demonstrate and to prove the existence of a soul than it is to establish personhood in something, I think. But who knows? Maybe he just simply is just not using that terminology just for coincidence. I don't know. Maybe he believes his God is in each cell. Yeah, maybe. The breath of life, it's in everyone in there. Nitty says the ideology is actually heinous because you never get to know if God wants you to have a child in the first place. Yeah, it could be that you not being able to reproduce, Mike Pence, that might be God's will, and you've just gone against God's will. Ugh. I wouldn't want to be on God's hot seat at that point. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks, Earl. I can't wait. In fact, Paul just messaged me. He's asking me what he wants my cartoon to wear. So actually, let's see. Can I make a poll? This will be fun. I haven't done a poll at all on my channel yet. Pop out chat, timestamp, blah, 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 blah. How do I make a poll? Start a poll. Okay. What should cartoon Eric wear for Apologia's video? Okay, so Apologia is going to draw me. He just asked me yesterday what I should wear. So I'm going to wear I'll wear my pajamas. I got my black hoodie. How many options can I add? We'll wear a clown nose. Then what else should we do? Oh, a JW suit and briefcase. Let's try that. Start poll. So you folks tell me what I should wear on Apologia's video, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that a little later. Okay, what else we got here? Show me your blastocyst first step pick. Yeah, there you go. What was your zygote's first word? What was his first thought? Oh, does it have any thoughts? Why doesn't it have any thoughts? Oh, no brain. Oh, well, if it has no thoughts, how does it have a will? Answer that, Andrew. D-Bunny suit a la Donnie Darko. D-Bunny suit a la Donnie Darko. I am going to make a horrible, horrible admission here. I've never watched Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko bunny suit. Is that like a Playboy bunny thing? Google wants me to identify a fire extinguisher because I'm on a VPN right now. There we go. Oh, wow. That is interesting. I'll go ahead and share that. That's wow. So what is Donnie Darko all about? This looks like a horror movie. Oof, wow. Yeah, okay. We can add that as an option maybe to the list. Supersonic shirt. I'm not a sports fan, Eddie. I'm sorry. I tried to get into American football for a while. I got into American football twice. Once when I was like 10, 11, 12, because I was not into football, the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl was an excuse to drag my dad to the store, buy chips and soda and ice cream and make this gigantic junk food platter. I remember we had this was back when the Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills were like 2, 3, 4 years in a row at the Super Bowl, like year after year, because they were like two best teams. I had this football shaped party platter plate that I filled up with all kinds of junk. And the Super Bowl was just an excuse for 11-year-old me to eat a lot of junk food that day. And I remember the day that I decided I didn't care about it anymore. It was Super Bowl day. I was in my dad's office on the computer and I was playing Dark Forces, an old Star Wars game, like DOS-based Star Wars game. And I remember saying to myself, oh, the Super Bowl's on. I better go and watch it. And then just something in my brain said, but you want to play this game more. And I was like, yeah, I want to play this game more. I don't care about the Super Bowl. And I just gleefully ignored the Super Bowl that day and kept on playing my video game. And that was the first time I got into sports, in and out. Second time I got into sports was 15 years ago. And I was doing it because I was trying to, I was dating a girl at the time, and it was my way of getting to know her better and her family better. And I think the father he was a Dallas Cowboys fan. Her favorite football team, I think hers was the Colts. So yeah, anyway, that's the second time I got into football, about a year or so. That relationship ended terribly. So I got out of that and I was like, okay, I just don't care about sports anymore. So that's where I'm at with sports. No, Nitty, I'm sorry. I do live in a cave, yeah. I have all my video games crammed in here in a cave. What is Donnie Darko about? It would be quicker to watch it. Okay, I'm gonna add that to my list. I will, yeah, we can do that too. Maybe have like a private stream. We should probably actually have a stream or two where we're not actually like streaming, it's just a hangout. We just do whatever. We can watch a movie, play board games or something. I don't know. We can just a hangout, like not necessarily anything filmed and broadcast to anyone. Okay, let's keep going here. Catching up. Oh yeah, I forgot about Gather. Yeah. I think I still have my account. Hop in there and say hi. Okay. Yep, sounds good. And yeah, D4. I'm actually thinking about getting back into Diablo 4. I hear they just completely reworked everything. It feels like a brand new game. And speaking of games, I watched the Fallout series last night. I binged the whole thing for 8 hours. It's 8 1-hour episodes. It's pretty good. Definitely better than Halo. That was a butchered mess. Okay, let's keep going here.
To you for counsel in that process, what would you have told him about the choice he was considering?
I would want to have a very respectful.
All right, before he gives his answer, I like this. I like this response here. The question is from Sean: if he, Mike Pence, had come to you for counseling in that process, what would you have told him about the choice he was considering? I'll rewind it just a couple seconds.
He was considering.
I would want to have a very respectful conversation with Vice President Pence and to ask him, is he aware of all of the facts that go into in vitro fertilization? And I think if I would have a further conversation knowing Vice President Pence's convictions, like I think I do, to ask him how he squares the existence of frozen embryos, the possibility of them being destroyed.
So he basically says, I want to have a very respectful conversation with Pence and ask him, do you really know what's going on here? Well, considering, disagree with him or not, I don't think Mike Pence is a stupid or uneducated person. I think he's well educated. I think he's probably pretty intelligent. Of course, he knows what's going on in IVF. You have to talk to your doctor. The doctor's going to explain this to you. The doctor is not just going to spawn 10, 15 embryos from you and your wife's DNA and then toss them without telling you about it. And if one does, then that person should lose their license because they're not informing their patient. But he wants to ask him how he squares the existence of frozen embryos and the possibility of them being destroyed. And I asked that question earlier. I don't know what Mike Pence would say about that. I would imagine Mike Pence would say, well, we're getting a life out of it. And those frozen embryos are probably going to heaven. I mean, if you're going down, William Lane Craig's route of, innocent children definitely go to heaven, even the ones that were skewered by Israelite soldiers in the Old Testament. So Mike Pence might just be saying, well, something good's coming out of it on both ends. We're sending a bunch of embryos to heaven and we're getting a bouncing baby child, and we can, we're doing God's will. We're procreating. I would say that might be what Mike Pence's response is. But anyway, let's keep going.
How that reality aligns with his pro-life convictions. I do think that there is an inconsistency with pro-life Americans and pro-life Christians who are anti-abortion or pro-life, but then who are also pro-IVF.
Well, Andrew, maybe those people understand the difference between a zygote and a human, a born human. A zygote with no brain, no will, no mind, and then compare that to a 6-year-old girl, a 20-year-old girl, a 90-year-old girl. Like you can, if you can understand the hospital hypothetical and why you should save that girl in the stretcher instead of the embryos, then you can answer your own question here.
So just concretely, what would you say to Vice President Pence?
So again, and that's another thing too, he didn't quite answer the question. He said, well, I would ask him if he really knew what he was doing. How does he reconcile these things? And then he goes on to say, well, I don't see how these people can, he actually this is the first time he's actually invoking, talking about anti-abortion and pro-life, because this is not on the topic of abortion. This is on the topic of IVF, which some overlap, yes, obviously, but some very different ramifications when it comes to the end result. Yeah, Tux, good to see you. All right. So Sean just asked again, basically reiterating the question, what would you say to Mike Pence?
If he came to me, I would counsel him against pursuing IVF.
And what would you tell him and his wife, who he calls mother, to do instead?
Pence calls his wife mother? I hope that was not an accurate statement, because that's kind of weird. I can't imagine calling my wife mother. Mother of my child, sure. I don't have any kids. Like, we have no kids. But just mother? It's kind of creepy, kind of Norman Batesy. I don't know.
If it were me and I was their a spiritual counselor to them or their pastor, I would counsel them towards looking towards adoption as a very viable option. I don't think that human beings or parents are entitled to children.
They're not entitled to children, but are they obligated to have children? They're under commandment from God to be fruitful and be many and to fill the earth. So it could be argued that Mike Pence is simply doing what he has to do to fulfill his God's command. And if you talk to many Christians, including William Lane Craig recently with his interview with Alice O'Connor, anything becomes moral when God commands it. So if God commands you have a child, then commanding that person to have a child through IVF from this God that's moral, even if it costs 1,000 frozen zygotes embryos. As long as you're fulfilling God's command, it's moral.
I think children are a gift, and they are a gift brought into the world best under the circumstances and conditions where it's the embodied love of a husband and wife that are conceiving them.
Again, let's talk about Abraham and Hagar. But here's the thing, though. So he says here that I think children are a gift. So he thinks that these children are coming from God. They're like pre-made in a factory, like a God factory, and then distributed, kind of like mail order. Like maybe storks deliver them. I don't know. But children are a gift. And they are a gift brought into the world best under the circumstance and conditions where it's the embodied love of a husband and wife that are conceiving them. So, I mean, it can be argued that your typical atomic family is a very good environment to bring up a child. A lot of Christians will go, well, it has to be a father and a mother. Whether that's necessarily the best conditions or not, I can't say. I mean, I see no difference between two mothers raising a lovingly raising a child, or a mother and father raising a child lovingly, or two fathers raising a child lovingly. Like, I kind of equate all three of those. Each one is going to have a different perspective. Each one's going to have different type of upbringing. The same way that if you have 10 hetero couples, each husband's going to be different. Each wife is going to be different. Each upbringing is going to be different. You can't measure these things. And I've never seen a convincing argument that two mothers can't raise a child the same way that a mother and father can raise a child, or two fathers. And that also extends into single parents. I mean, there's the simple fact of the matter that with a single parent, you have half the human power to put into the child. Like, someone's got to work, someone's got to clean the house. Working in pairs is usually best, but that's just from a practical standpoint. You can still have fully functional, fully realized children that are well adjusted and loved and everything in a single parent household as well. You might have more strain with time and money. Sure, that's just a practical effect of that situation. But I don't see at all any argument as to why one situation from a loving, caring upbringing standpoint is better than another. It should just be loving adults bringing up a small human from childhood to adulthood with love and care and thought and emotion and doing so in a way that they think they are giving that child the best opportunity at life. Across the board, they're all the same to me when it comes to that.
And it's not technology, it's not science, it's not laboratories, it's not physicians, it's not surrogates, it's not lawyers. In all of those situations I just mentioned, once you, again, transgress that sacred boundary of the embodied love of a husband and wife, you begin to enter into all of these other ethical scenarios.
So he's basically saying, why are we bringing all this extra stuff in here? It just takes a man and a woman and some love, and that's all you need. Yeah, thankfully, we don't look at it so simplistically, the way that he's simplistically looking at what a human is, what a being is, what a person is. This guy, he really does address this as if a child would be addressing the issue. As far as like we've gone through, we're mostly done. We're almost all the way through this. He hasn't answered questions very well. His argumentation was all over the case, riddled with emotional baggage, riddled with improper terminology, and he's really reasoning on this as if he's an adolescent. It's like he's playing with dollies, and he's trying to figure out which dolly is. He's basically trying to look at all his toys and say, "Oh, all these toys are of equal value," when that's not the case.
Where other people get involved in bringing children into this world, and then also bringing children into the world into situations that I think are against the interest of children.
So now he's complaining that we're bringing children into the world in situations that are not good for the children. I agree. There's lots and lots of people in the world that get pregnant and they are not ready for it, not financially, not emotionally, not on any type of maturity level. There are pregnancies that are the product of sexual assault and rape, and these people should not be having kids. This is I can agree with him on this, in that there are ideal circumstances at which you should raise a child, and there are many circumstances which we shouldn't. And unfortunately, those circumstances at which we shouldn't are fairly common. Like I said, people getting pregnant when they're not ready for it by accident or by sexual assault or other means. We should give these people an out. We should allow them to have an escape hatch, to make sure that their lives aren't destroyed. They don't get into a situation where they are struggling to raise a child in either poverty or with no time or even with no interest. Should someone who is mentally ill raise a child in a situation where they are expressing, no, I don't want to raise a child. I don't want to do this. He's closing the door on all these people by saying abortion and IVF should not be the case. But then he turns right around and says, why we have these situations now where we have people trying to raise children outside of these ideal circumstances. Like he's trying to create a world where these things are commonplace and possible, or commonplace, and then he's trying to basically pull the rug out from under them and then just get these people in this impossible situation where they can't do anything about it. And then he laments over it. Again, like I said, this is a good example of conflicting priorities.
I think children need a mom and a dad. And when we are designing an artificial reproductive technology regime where children can be placed in a home with either a mom or with a dad or on their own, or two moms and two dads, I think we're not looking out for the well-being of the child in the best possible way.
So right here, he is basically saying that the pregnancy needs to be all natural, and it needs to be a mother and a father. But he's missing the point that a lot of IVF are done via mothers and fathers working together to have a baby. So the end result fits his narrative, fits his desire. He doesn't like the means by which you get there. And then now here he's going completely off the rails, and he's basically attacking abortion, attacking homosexual relationships that want to raise child, and even single family household or single parent households. He's basically attacking all of these and saying, you're going outside of my biblically determined best practice when it comes to raising kids. and this is a bad thing. So anyway, Sean here rightfully cuts him off. So let's listen.
I got to cut you off there, Andrew. I asked you about Mike Pence and a mother and a father, and you're telling me about same-sex couples. Why would you think that Mike Pence and his wife should not be parents? And what would you say to them when they said to you, "We want to be parents"? What would you say to them? Not some same-sex couple whose love you don't believe in, but these people who fit your mold of traditional Christian parents.
So again, mad props to Sean here, not only calling him out for not answering the question, but also calling him out for muddying the waters, because we see this all the time. We see this on the line all the time. We see this on Skeptic Haven all the time. Whenever you are in a conversation with somebody who is grounding their beliefs and their reasoning on the Bible and all the conflicting principles and rules therein, once you get to a point where you're identifying contradictions, identifying maybe conflicting goals, identifying bad reasoning, and they realize this, they then start shooting the flak up into the sky. Like, I just watched Band of Brothers again, which I do every year, but German artillery guns shooting flak up into the sky to shoot down Allied paratrooper planes. Like, you aren't aiming at anything with a flak gun, especially at night. You're just shooting it up there and hoping something hits. And this is what this guy's basically doing here. He's throwing out all kinds of crap to muddy the waters, to pollute the air, basically trying to say, well, we got to talk about anti-abortion. We have to talk about same-sex couples. We got to talk about single couples. We got to talk about how the heteronormative couple is the best way to raise a child. And we need to care about the best reasons for the child, when the question was, what would you say to Mike Pence? So yeah, I mean, it's this is a tactic, not just for theists. Theists do this all the time because we typically, that's who we talk to on these shows. But this is when a person has no argument, no reasoning. They just start throwing out everything and seeing what can stick, what can distract, what can basically what red herring can distract away from the core of the conversation, because they don't like where that's going.
I would affirm their desire to want to be parents is a good, godly, and biblical desire. But that good desire doesn't allow us to trump other biblical realities and other moral realities.
So he's here basically trying to, didn't really answer the question again. Says, I would affirm their desire to want to be parents. I would affirm their desire to want to be parents in a good, godly, and biblical desire. So he's basically saying, Mike Pence and your wife, I commend you for wanting to be parents. But that good desire does not allow us to trump other biblical realities. What biblical realities? We know what the Bible says. That doesn't make it a reality. And other moral realities. Well, he hasn't argued for any moral reality. He just simply said it's true because it's true, which we did at the beginning of the episode. It's true because it's true. There's a dignity of the child and all that. He hasn't actually made an argument here. He's just simply saying, he's pretending like he did, as if he has some type of grounding and some type of footing for what he's presenting. And then he's telling Mike Pence that it's fine, you want these things, but you can't transgress upon my perception of what biblical law is and moral realities are. I'm losing my voice. I gotta drink some water.
This must have been a big moment for you to see this court in Alabama adopt a viewpoint that you've held for some time, it sounds like. But this reaction you're seeing, even, the leading Republican candidate for president is coming out against this decision. Was that disappointing to you? Because this could have been a moment where Christians sort of were awakened to this fringe viewpoint, but instead it looks like it's heading the other way.
It might seem fringe by sheer sake of a minority position, but I am pretty convinced on the moral philosophical side of this.
It might seem fringe by the sheer sake of a minority position. Yeah, that's the definition of fringe. The smaller the minority, the more fringe you are. So it's like, yeah, it's fringe when you hold the definition of fringe to it, but I've got the Bible on my side.
And there are a lot of those individuals in the scholarly community who would adopt the same type of philosophical approach that I would. It is disappointing.
And again, okay, I'm fringe, but I got friends in my little fringe group. That doesn't change anything.
Of course. that individuals who would wear the label pro-life would come out and condemn this decision, and then come out kind of giving a blank check to IVF and the artificial reproductive kind of technology regime that we have in the United States. I think that
That's really weird. Excuse me. That's a really weird thing to say. So, where is it? Okay. Individuals who would wear the label pro-life, so he's talking about Mike Pence, would come out and condemn this decision, namely the decision in Alabama that zygotes and embryos are people, effectively outline IVF, basically turn it into murder, basically. Then come out kind of giving a blank check to IVF and the artificial reproductive kind of technology regime that we have in the United States. So his terminology is getting really bizarre here at the end. Because what does that even mean? Artificial reproductive kind of technology regime that we have in the United States. What does that mean? I think he's still probably trying to like jam like abortion in there. I think that maybe that's kind of what he's going at. He probably is thinking of Planned Parenthood in his mind. But reproductive kind of technology regime. Isn't a regime made of people, not of technology? I don't know. Anyway, all right, we got one last thing. I think it's just going to close out and we're done here. So let's finish up.
in all of these situations where individuals are celebrating IVF, the next question then is, yes, but what about the excess embryos?
You destroy them because they're not people. They're the same as my skin cells. What, like that's like saying, oh well, when you lose your arm, what happens to the arm? What happens to the arm? It's got desires and rights. No, it doesn't. You safely dispose of it. You compost it. I think
Andrew Walker teaches Christian ethics at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville. When we're back on Today Explained, we're going to talk about just how big a political loser this fight is for the right.
So anyway, Andrew Walker teaches Christian ethics at a theological seminary, and we just saw the quality of his argumentation, the quality of his logic and thought. I feel sorry for those students because that was a mess. And that's all I got to say about that. So, all right, let's catch up on comments, and maybe we'll look at some Christian memes. I'm going to beat Matt to the punch. I'm going to show some memes before he does, but I'm sure his is going to draw a whole lot more people once he does it. Okay, we got Hive Sci. Bree, welcome. I need Eric to come get him if the war breaks out. Please, skeptics and scoundrels. Come and get who? Was this my Band of Brothers comment? You'll have to reiterate. Bree, great to see you though. I haven't seen you in several weeks, so yeah. Hope you're doing well. I need to catch one of your streams here pretty soon. A lot of internal conversation. Ow, hell, yeah. That's how that's what it felt like going through that podcast. And mad props to Sean. Like Sean, the interviewer. I like him. He held his feet to the fire. He didn't let him get away with some of the bullshit tactics that Christians like to use sometimes. So I like it. I hope you're not talking about the embryo, Stephanie, because that's not a full meal at all. You need like several thousand to at least get a little full, I would think. Lunar regolith phantasmal terrain. I don't think I've ever seen you before. Welcome. Fertilized embryos make a fine vinaigrette dressing. Yeah, I would say so. I kind of more like sprinkle it over spaghetti. I think just like get a bunch of them, like dry them out, get them into like a shaker, and just over the spaghetti, kind of like Parmesan cheese. Yeah, we're far enough in the stream, right? We're not gonna get like flagged for anything. I think we scared away all the Christians in here anyway, so it's safe to talk about eating babies. Yeah, I've had many embryos for breakfast of the chicken variety. I love eggs. Titan, welcome. Nice to have you here. Yeah, I do this. I make this for my wife all the time. It's just a slice of toast, some butter, an over easy egg on top. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I take that back. When we're really being fancy, uh, toast, butter, a spread of guacamole, and then a fried egg on top with pepper and salt and a little bit of like crushed red pepper. Good stuff. All right, we're all caught up. Alex Chow. Hey Alex, good to see you. This is my really good friend Alex. He is he's on my stream. Welcome. I've known Alex for 20 years. He was my best man at my wedding. Good to have you here, man. Okay, so now that Alex is here, let's look at 4chan atheist memes from back in the day. So here's a fun story. So Alex, I've told the story a couple times, but so I knew Alex back when I was in high school, back when I was kind of like a jacked Jehovah's Witness. Anyway, as a jacked Jehovah's Witness in high school, I didn't quite follow the rules like appropriately. Like I had worldly friends, namely Alex and another friend of ours. Alex was a freshman in high school while I was a senior. Anyway, so when I got out of school and I became a super duper like strict, like serious witness, I actually cut off contact with Alex and my other friends and basically said, yeah, I'm got to do the right thing. I need to cut off my worldly association. And it was like that for about 3 or 4 years. And then when I deconverted, I was in Montana. I was freshly deconverted. I didn't have anybody around me. And I was like, man, I really miss my friends. So I contacted Alex and our other friend, and they both flew to Montana. They hung out with me for like, Alex was there for a week. My other friend was there for a month, just hanging out and reconnecting after several years. And yeah, really, really warmed my heart. So, and now here I am with an atheist live stream, and Alex is here talking. Hey man, I'm so glad to see you. Okay, anyway, let's I keep thinking Eric was saying he was a jacked Jehovah's Witness, and I was like, weird bag to throw in. No, you never heard of jacked, right? Like a jacked Mormon, like not jacked like strong, but just like kind of like not following the rules quite exactly. Yeah, that's a jacked Mormon, jacked witness. Yeah, I'm sorry, Alex. I'm so sorry for coming back into your life and ruining it. He and I are getting lunch tomorrow, by the way. We're I don't know where we're gonna go, somewhere in Seattle. Yeah, no, not jacked like beefcake. It's jacked like jacked Mormon, like defective, not quite following the rules. All right, so let's look at some memes. I have not prepared for this at all, so how will I do this? Stop screen and begin. There we go. So I have a huge folder here from my 4chan days, and there's like, we're just going to kind of crawl through it. I can't show you the folder because I have no idea what's in here. I'm going to open up a window, share that, and I'll load the images that I can deem safe individually. Oh, these were classics. Okay, let me see if I can make this big. And then, no, not Photoshop. No, my default for JPEGs or Photoshop right now instead of preview. Ooh, okay, hold on. Let's try this again. I want preview. Photos. Okay, and then can I just drag a new photo over this to open it? Or no? Okay, give me a second here. Should have thought this through. See, Bree knows. Okay, that works perfect. Awesome. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to do this in blah, 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 blah. Share. Okay, so this was remember what was that one meme? It was the guy with the hat, Scumbag Steve or something like that. It was a dude wearing a hat. And it was basically like the way the meme started off was it was like this college guy in this brown hat, and it's something like, asked to smoke some of your weed, smokes it all, or something like that. Just like uh, a guy who asks you to do something or wants something from you, and then he just does way too much. So anyway, this one here is saves thousands of people, or I'm sorry, thousands of people dying in the world. But hey, he saved you a parking spot at Walmart. And this talks about people who think God helped them get their car keys, or God helped them get that job, or football players, God helped me get this touchdown. Completely just, let me get back to this. Completely just forgetting. Come on. Sorry. There we go. It's just a very me-centric view of the way God handles, like from a Christian's perspective, it's a very me-centric view of the way that God interacts with the world. This is the Christian basically saying that I'm going to ignore all these atrocities, all these other people that God are ignoring, but don't worry, he helped me find my car keys, or he helped me get that job, or he helped me get that touchdown. It's just a complete detachment from reality about what the world is actually like. Because it can be very simple. Like I live in a first world country. I have a well-paying job. I have a nice house. I have a full stomach. I have 2 corgis, and like I got it good. And it can be very easy to lose perspective that, hey, we actually are living in a world where a lot of people don't ever make it past the age of 5 because of hunger and starvation and war. Which is why I encourage people to, find good charities, find good charity work that they want to do. Losing my voice still. Find good charities. Find some way to help make the world a better place. Don't worry about solving all problems. Just do what you can within your means. And you'd be surprised how far that can go. There's volunteer work to be done. There's donations that can be made. Depending on where you work, certain companies will offer a program where you can donate some of your, it's not like PTO where you have paid time off, but you can actually take work hours and spend those work hours at like a food bank and sort food for people, or go to like a soup kitchen, or do some type of charity work. And that can actually be used for your paycheck, and you actually get paid for that time. I know my company offers that. But anyway, yeah, do something like that. And don't be like these people where you're thinking that, hey, the universe, God, whatever, is really looking out for me. And then you're ignoring the people across the world that are basically dying and starving to death and such. All right, let's find another one. I'm going to crawl through my folder here. There's definitely some in here that I cannot show you people, unfortunately. That was another thing too. Like 15 years ago, when I was freshly deconverted, I found so many things funny that I just don't find funny now. Like there's nothing like anything like terrible in here, but stuff I would not want to show. No, Alex, I will not. Let's see here. I think I got my religious ones up top. Got a good Carl Sagan quote here. Not really mean, but it's a good inspirational Carl Sagan quote. It is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring. That's a good one, because it can be, and I'm still very much prone to this, where I will want to hold on to beliefs or not investigate contradictory positions or positions that are opposed to mine, because I'm comfortable in my belief. I don't want my beliefs to be false. That doesn't make them true. That doesn't make them not false, but it does discourage ones from investigating things fully. And that's something that I got to constantly fight against. We all have to keep on challenging these beliefs and not get like kind of rest on our laurels and think, okay, we got things all figured out. We want to keep on, investigating things and keep on forcing ourselves to grow, even if it is comfortable, and if it's uncomfortable and difficult and takes a lot of energy. because the moment you stop doing that is the moment you start accepting falsehoods without really knowing about it. Sorry, my voice is going. I'm going to have to wrap this up here pretty soon. I thought this was a funny one. This is a really good illustration on exactly how religious indoctrination works. Because it works. This is pretty much what I went through when I was a kid. So you can imagine the cycle that went into this, that these two parents had this done to them by their parents, and then their parents had that done to them by their parents, and now they're passing it on to the next generation. This is a really good illustration about what indoctrination is all about, because what defenses does this child have against this? Virtually none. A kid does not have the tools needed to critically analyze the world. A kid does not have the confidence or the intellectual power, or even a lot of times the flexibility or the even realizing that they have the opportunity to argue against their parents. For the most part, and this is a good evolutionary thing. It's good that our kids blindly obey parents in many cases. Like when you tell a kid, get out of the street right now, you don't want that kid to stop there and say, should I? Why should I argue with you? You need that child to obey you immediately for, their safety and such. Telling a kid, don't touch the stove, don't stick your hand in the vacuum cleaner when it's turned on, don't pet that dog, it might bite you. It's good that kids blindly obey their parents most of the time. The problem is religion has hijacked this process and has turned it into this. Basically, a kid will listen to their parents, will just simply accept what their parents say, and that could include the delusions of religion. And this is exactly what happened to me when I was a kid, and many other kids that grew up under these circumstances. I think Nitty basically had the same type of upbringing, I'm assuming, because from what I've heard him say on his podcast. But the thing is, though, this kid has no defenses against these things. I had no defenses against my Jehovah's Witness upbringing because how could I? I'm a kid. I was never taught these things. And even when I was in my mid-20s, when I left and I started deconverting, I still had virtually no tools to figure out what was going on. All I knew was something's not right here. I need to start investigating. And that's when I started doing more reading, watching more atheist YouTube, and I started developing and accumulating the tools that I use now to critically analyze the world. And I didn't get to this point until I was in my mid-30s. What good is a 10-year-old kid going to be against this type of indoctrination machine? Like there's no defense against it. What else we got here? We'll do maybe two more, and then we'll call it good because we're hitting 2 hours here pretty soon. I got a cute baby sloth. There we go. That'll work. I don't think anything bad will happen there. Not religious, but I think everybody should follow their dreams. Within reason. Don't follow your dream. If you're 50, don't follow your dreams to be an astronaut. Sorry. That train has departed. Follow your dreams within reason. Become a YouTuber. Dream to be a YouTuber. I did it. I did it in my 40s. Oh God. God, what am I doing with my time? What am I doing here? Okay, we got something here. This is a good one. So when did Christopher Hitchens die? I think he died 10 years ago now. I think he died when I was still in Las Vegas. So I think he died about 10 years ago. But yeah, Hitchens' razor. What can be asserted without proof can be dismissed without proof. And it's a great sentiment because it just cuts through bullshit. We see that a lot on The Line, and we also see it on other shows like Skeptic Haven, Atheist Experience, where people will just simply make claims and then expect you to debunk those claims. And it's like, no, you haven't supported that claim with any evidence yet. We don't have any reason to believe this, so we can simply dismiss it. Oh yeah, the Discord link. Yeah, I can post that. Thought I have it. Oh, wait, actually, no, I don't have a Discord. I thought you were talking about StreamYard. I don't have a Discord yet. I'm a member of a few other Discords though. I'm in Titans Discord and a few others, Apologists, but I don't have a Discord yet. I think there's too many Discord servers. That's just me. Okay, and then we'll do one more, and then we'll go over the poll results, and then we'll call it good for the night. Lunar Regolith. I can neither confirm nor deny that there's a Skeptics and Scoundrels Discord. If there isn't, there should be. Well, I mean, there's demand for one. I'll do that. Yeah, Titan, you mentioned that, I think, a couple weeks ago. I mean, I can do it. Just don't know if I want to. I'll give it more thought, but message received. I'm seeing interest in that, so I will strongly consider it. I also Earl got on my case a few days ago about not having memberships on my channel yet and having emojis and stuff, and I think that's probably a good thing to do too. It probably generates some growth and some interest in these streams. Definitely doing it more often, more regularly will also do the same. Yeah, I'm hoping though. I kind of strategically placed this here because I'm hoping after the Wednesday show on the line, I can pick up some of the audience. I'd leave that. So like, we already have some folks here from that. I'm hoping to kind of, it's kind of like open up a food truck outside of a stadium after a game's over. You want to catch some of those people on the way out and, earn those, or make those sweet views. All right. What about this one? Nope, that's the same one. It was actually the same meme as the first one, except instead of it was a smaller version of it. So I don't know how that happened. There's 10,000 files in here, so it's really difficult to kind of sort through all these. Oh, I loved these back in the day. Yeah, there we go. This one's called Good Guy Lucifer. I don't know if you guys remember this one. Good Guy Lucifer. So if you read the Bible, how many people has God killed in the Bible versus how many people does Satan kill in the Bible? God kills conservatively 2.5 million people in the Bible. Those are accounts, I think, that have actual, like, realistic, like actual concrete numbers attached to it. I think God killed like 2.5 million people. If you add an account where no numbers were given, including the flood, the global flood, God killed about 25 million people in the Bible. Compare that to how many people Satan killed in the Bible. I think Satan killed 10, and that was Job's family. And he did that with the explicit permission from God to kill Job's family because he had a bet with God or a competition with God about it. So anyway, this is Good Guy Lucifer saying eternal torture. No, we're more about drugs, sex, scientific process, and rock and roll. Have you met Lenin yet? How about Galileo? This kind of goes on lines of go to heaven for the weather, but go to hell for the company. Yeah. But yeah, it's Good Guy Lucifer. Lucifer is actually the good guy in the Bible. If you, what was it? The comedian Jim Jeffries? Jim Jeffries, yeah. Lucifer, Satan in the Bible, is the bigger God. He's the bigger spirit because God is just over here writing shit about Satan. And Satan's like, I don't need to do that. I'm secure. I'm secure in my spirithood. I'm secure as an individual, as a being. I don't need to defend myself against you. I don't need to attack you. I'm better than that. Satan is a bigger person, a bigger man, bigger person than God. All right, one more. Let's find something good. Next time we do this, I'll queue up a bunch ahead of time. This was kind of just an afterthought for the stream. This one's pretty good. The reason there's a conflict between science and religion is that science keeps disproving the things religions claim as true. And that's 100% true across the board. I challenge anyone, if anybody is a Christian in here or ever watches this, I challenge you to find a single thing that we know about the world that science had wrong and religion came by and corrected. Because we have lots of things that religion had wrong that science came by and corrected. but it never seems to go the other way. We never seem to be going back towards religion on any matters. And when I say things that science or religion has right or wrong, I'm talking about things that can be demonstrated, things can be shown to others, preferably measured and repeated and shown to peers for review that this is indeed the case. If you want to say that, oh, well, God can cure my cancer, I welcome you to demonstrate that to us in a way that can be repeated and measured and observed. We know science cures cancer, not 100%. I mean, because it's just it's just a realistic thing about medical technology is that it's not 100% effective against all things. But damn, our ability to cure cancer far exceeds the ability of prayer to cure cancer. And we can measure these things. We can see exactly what's going on in the body when we administer chemotherapy, when we administer radiation. We know exactly what's going on there. But man, when you pray, like, how does that even work? How do you even know your prayer is actually doing anything? So yeah, think about that. If you're next time you're praying over, grandma's bum leg. Okay, we are done for the day. So anyway, yeah. Oh, the poll. Yeah, let's look at the poll. How do I show the poll? I'm gonna end that poll. Oh, did the poll go away? Oh no. I hope I didn't just get rid of it. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. How do I share this? Present, share screen. There's going to be Inception. Window. Well, I'll just read it out. It's fine. I'll have to figure out how to take a slice of my screen and show it to everybody later on. But anyway, from 25 votes, which is nearly the entire audience, thank you so much. The winner is JW suit in a briefcase. For my apologia appearance, I should wear a Jehovah's Witness suit and a briefcase. I wonder if I should maybe have a watchtower and a Wake magazine sticking out of it. That might be cool. Anyway, black hoodie is at 23%. My pajamas that I'm wearing right now is at 20%. And a clown nose is at 7%. Thank you so much for sparing me the clown nose. Okay. Well, that's great. So thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by. We'll have another one of these hopefully next week. I will be on the Sunday show after hours, the second Sunday show this upcoming Sunday with Matt Dillahunty. That starts at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which I think is 3 p.m. Central and 2 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, Matt and I will hopefully have some good conversations there. And then I think I also have another appearance on the Sunday show next week, the Sunday after. And I'm not sure who I'm with that. I think with Forrest Valkai, which awesome guy, by the way. I mentioned earlier, but I went to Austin, Texas and hung out with Matt and Arden. They let me stay in their guest room for a night. And Forrest Valkai came over. We all played board games for the night. So Forrest is just like his on-screen persona. He's full of energy. He's just happy and cheerful and an awesome guy to be around. So I'm really looking forward to hanging out with him on the Sunday show in a couple of weeks. So anyway, I hope everyone had a good time. Nitty is telling me to wait. Wait, what, Nitty? I'll give you 30 seconds. But actually, I'll tell you, I'll give you more than that. I will start saying thank you to people. Yeah, so Titan, thanks for stopping by. Killed Earl, great to see you again. Maya, have your people contact my people. We'll get another episode of Bad Sunday Show going. Skeptics and Scoundrels After Dark. Yeah, a more intimate Skeptics and Scoundrels. So we're all leaning the microphone real close and speak real gently. Yeah, I'm sorry himself. I mean, what's one vote? I'll be in a JW suit and tie and a briefcase, according to everyone here. And that's probably what I'll do. I'll tell Paul that that's what I'm going to be in. I should probably find a decent suit though. But yeah, we'll do that. I used to, another tangent. I used to own 10 suits and 30 ties back when I was a Joe's Witness. Now I'm down to one suit. I still have all the ties because they're easy to store, but I should probably maybe show my ties one day. I got a wide selection of all kinds of ties and just goofy ties, like Garfield's on there, Darth Vader's on there. I'm really surprised I was able to get away with that kind of stuff when I was a witness. Yeah, Pandora, thanks again. Really appreciate it. This stream was because you called me out in that weather stream. Said, "Hey, stream Eric," and I said, "Yes, Pandora." And I came over here. So thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay. So the time zones that I said, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah. I did get it backwards. You're right. 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 7 p.m. Central Time. That's Texas because that's where they film. So yeah, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when the stream will be. So just go over the line and you'll see the you'll see the thing. Cool. Viclet, good to see you. AS and SMR. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, is it Eastern Standard Time? Nitty, yes, I'll call me out, man. I'm really tired. All right. 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 7 o'clock Central Time. That's 8 Eastern Time. So that's why it's after dark, because it's really dark over there. 5 p.m. my time. The sun's still got another 2 hours in the sky. Love you too, Alex. Yeah. Yeah. Call me later. When my wife's in bed, call me. Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. Have a good evening. Catch you later.